And here's a video of the Extreme Garden in action. As you see, when I'm swimming, there's actually no mobility restrictions. I couldn't tell I was wearing anything other than just a plain rash guard. It was easy to pull the valve design, activating it to get proper buoyancy. My head was well elevated out of the water, and I believe it worked, and it was a very successful test.
Through the quick connect valve,
I could actually deflate it whenever I was wearing it. You just unzip it, and you could actually pull off the quick connect, and it deflates.
Through the 1/4-inch tubing that's connected to the body.
Exactly. We decided not to go with any check valves or release valves because it's a complete cell system. So every time you take the valve out of the pocket, you're actually disconnecting the quick connect, which allows the air to escape out of the bladder. So therefore, that's the reason we don't use any check valves.
It would be necessary for rearming anyway, so it's not necessarily, it's a nice feature to have.
And that was another reason why we put the quick connect valve, because it made it easy to take the valve out without having to take the whole bladder assembly out, and you could reload it and put in your new CHUs.
One of the problems with big wave surfing is that when you're tumbling in the wash, you don't know which way is up, and so having the buoyancy to bring you up actually could definitely be a safety device.
And as we mentioned, and it's important to reiterate, that this is not an automatically inflating device. Had the surfer or the wearer been knocked unconscious, this would not provide them any protection. But if they had the ability, as they realize that they're being overcome, it's very easy to activate the device, bring yourself to the surface quickly.
Yeah, it's not a toy, so we don't, when we were testing for reusability, it is a life-saving device. So if somebody's using this thing like 12 times, they don't need to be in the water.
Right.
This is an emergency device.
Use it once.
Yeah.
You put it away.
It definitely works multiple times. So
Yeah.
it's durable. The brass is very corrosion resistant, but the best corrosion resistance was the high density polyethylene. That's why we chose it for our final design, which we didn't use for the prototype.
And another reason that we decided to go with Tygon tubing is because Tygon tubing has some properties that actually it's corrosive resistant even in some acids. That's
To salt water.
Yes, even salt water.
And the sealed system is also nice for the failure because nothing's allowed to get in there, so all the mechanisms are free to move, which is a nice feature for this one, especially compared to some of the design alternatives.
You guys ever seen the outside of a ship?
Yes.
Yeah. Or swimming pool components made of brass. You ever seen that?
Excuse me?
Swimming pool components, pumps,
Oh, yes.
valves
Yes.
made of brass. Might be corrosion resistant, but they sure will accumulate particulates.
But the difference is that when you go surfing, you go for a couple of hours. In the swimming pool situation, it's submerged in the water 24/7, and so therefore our product wouldn't be in the water.
It's a lot to dry out, and you can clean it in between use.
It's actually common practice, and we didn't mention this, but it's common practice to wash the material that you wear in the ocean, as the salt water is corrosive and can degrade materials of the lifeguard. Wetsuits and many materials that divers use need to be washed off immediately after exiting the water in fresh water, and that was something that should be done here as well.
Put it in the instruction.
What's the CO2 pressure made of?
It's steel, and we don't have much control over that. That's something
Standard.
But I mean, they're only $1, so you could replace them if they look bad.
You said the age requirement was 13. That's just because of the force acted to pull it, and the liability issues also. Like, you want to be putting this on a 5-year-old who doesn't even know like what to do. And also, it would come in different sizes, like for women, small, medium, large. And they'd have the custom bladders to fit those as well.
Jeremy, Colin, and myself, we tried on the actual
It's
prototype,
pretty
and we all have different body. We're all different sizes, and it fit every single one of us. So
And the
therefore-
model is actually a female.
Yeah.
I'm really not this curvy.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, kind of like it is the quick she had.
It depends on the use. If the wearer can really wear this thing out pretty quick, if they're beaten up pretty bad, like because just the rash guard alone.
The material we put with it first.
But luckily, it's all like componentized to the point where you could replace individual components if you do unless it's the rash guard.
And also, as a rash guard is UV resistant, that should shield some of the inner components, just Tygon tubing, from the harmful effects of UV. That was something that we did not take into account, and should have been something, and would be something that we would need to look into further.
For example, what?
The
Thermal expansion.
The thermal expansion is one reason why we chose polyethylene, because it won't change size or shape at different temperatures.
Specifically at the junction between the valve assembly and the steel container, the steel cartridge, which would be, in my opinion, the most extreme material transition in the device.
Exactly. And if we experience thermal expansion, we can have problems inside the mechanism. Therefore, the cylinder will not be able to travel freely and puncture the mechanism, so therefore we have failure. That's one of the most important aspects that we needed to address in our project.
We were targeting a specific market, and that market was a group of people that had embraced this particular lycra shirt as a water sporting garment. And we saw that as an opportunity to exploit by just inserting a bladder and using a little bit of old technology with a new idea.
And another thing, we know there's a lot of products out there. For example, there's one called, I forget the Mustang, I think. And once you wear it, it's very bulky. It's not something that a surfer or a young kid will want to use. And that's what we're aiming our products to, surfers.
Yeah.
Therefore, the material.
And when you use timeout, when you enter the water, it actually activates.
Exactly. And the
So you
prices
don't have a choice. As soon as you touch water, it's like poof.
And the prices on those products range from $300 all the way up to $600, which are, I don't know, I wouldn't pay that amount of money if I was buying that.
Rash guard average price is about $30. They can range between 20 and 50. And
Then you had a price in the mid-hundreds for your...
right, our product, if we sold for retail, would actually go amount to be like $80. If we sold it, not retail, wholesale.
Wholesale, yeah, 89.
Yeah, yeah. And that was within our price range that we wanted.
So the survey supported that would be an okay cost.
Yeah, the CO2 would still supply the sufficient volume, and it would, because the CO2 cartridge doesn't completely inflate the bladder. We could take we did it with a 16 gram, and then right after that, we filled it up with a 12 gram, and that completely filled it. So with a smaller size, it would have no problem with the 16 gram.
Essentially, as is, the bladder is oversized.
Exactly.
So there's definitely the ability to trim out the bladder size.
The same valve can be used for different size canisters.
There's a rash guard on the inside as well.
It's
actually
integrated between the
it's
two layers.
pocketed between them.
Okay.
Which I mean, I lay down on a table and you can't really tell anything's there other than just the rash guard.
Okay.
There's not contact between the bladder and your skin. You have to protect your skin. That's the purpose of using the rash guard.
Without the other layer, the bladder would move all over the place
Exactly.
with you.
It'll act like a balloon and just move around.
So
it
does the rash guard normally have 2 layers, or are you adding a layer?
We
Right,
added
but for production, actually, we wouldn't add a whole rash guard underneath. It was just too hard to sew with the materials, the machines that we had.
The sleeves would be just one thickness. And then
we will just create a pocket underneath the outside rash guard, and therefore we just incorporate our bladder inside the pocket, protecting from contact between the bladder and the skin.
Is that reflected in your bill of materials?
The rash guard?
The additional layer of the pocket for the rash guard?
We accounted for it. We accounted, yes.
that would have to be determined more specifically by a manufacturing company that has more experience with rash guards and the different sewing necessary for this. We don't know exactly.
So it'd actually be probably a little less because we integrated 2 rash guards into our bill of materials and everybody would know that. So it'd be less because we'd be using less material.
Any other questions?
I like the logo. I just want to say that.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Great.
Thanks very much.